I have a cold.
I have a sinus infection.
And we are
Literally dead.
Like, actually.
The sickest horror podcast.
Yeah, we apologize for how we may sound or how much we may snort. Oh, damn. She does it on command. Oh, we're
And not on
back.
command.
No, we're back with another episode. It's been a while.
Been gone for a long time. We've missed you.
We have. We've been like doing stuff, moving, and like.
We've moved set. We're a lot more cozy now.
Yeah. How cozy is this? We're like one of those like couch podcasters.
Yeah.
For the benefit of the listener, we are sat on a couch.
Instead of in our previous place, which was a table.
Yes, which was an office.
Yes.
This is a couch. It's very cozy. This is probably not the final setup. We might find an even cozier way to do it, but this is pretty good for right now.
Yeah. Have you been good? We've missed you.
I haven't.
You've not been good?
No, I haven't missed them.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Have you been remembering to protest, to boycott, and to look out for what's going on in the world? In the last episode, we updated you on the national marches. In this episode, we're just going to remind you that the links to Operation Olive Branch, Palestine Solidarity Campaign, and Palestine Action are in our description. So if you want to donate or look them up or promote them in any way, they're there for you. So what are we doing today?
So we have a new film today.
Yeah.
It's what, 23 years old?
Same age as me.
Yeah, it's from the greatest year, 2001.
2001.
And it's from the greatest man who ever lived.
Snoop Doggy Dogg.
Snoop Doggy Dogg. In fact, to celebrate, we have a bottle of Cali Red, Snoop Dogg's wine.
We saw this in Asda and we knew immediately what movie we needed to do next.
Yeah. I mean, this bottle of wine is the whole reason we watched this film.
Yeah.
Which I'm glad we did because I liked it.
I thought it was really good. I really enjoyed it. Let's do a quick spoiler-free synopsis that I found on Letterboxd so that the viewer who wishes to watch it can come back later after they've seen it.
It's called Bones.
Bones, 2001. 20 years after his death, local legend Jimmy Bones returns to avenge his death and restore his community. Bam, bam, bam.
Oh, that's it. Ooh. The film's pretty good. Going into it, I don't know what my expectations necessarily were. I thought it'd be silly, maybe goofy. I didn't think it would have the production it had. I didn't realize would have as much money behind it as it seems it does.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you have like someone in it as famous as Snoop Dogg, I guess there's a good way to get some money into it, I think.
The film has a great poster. After seeing it, I did think maybe it had vampire vibes.
Yeah.
But there are no vampires.
Snoop Dogg vampire film in the works, I hope.
I hope. I hope.
He would be a good vampire, I think.
He'd be a great vampire. I mean, the way he played Bones in this film, I think he'd slay a vampire.
Definitely. Well, I heard of this movie because I watch a lot of the Dead Meat kill counts. Mm-hmm. And when we saw the wine, which I had known about for a little while in Asda, I was like, this is the movie. This is the movie.
All right, so to get right into it.
Yeah.
The movie opens with
a man being chased by a dog around this really like dilapidated building, like on the streets around it.
Yeah.
And it's
like this Cujo-esque demon dog.
Yeah, it's like what kind of dog is it? It's
like one of them wolf ones.
It's got like pointy ears and then like black fur and red eyes.
It looks like a black husky. Yeah, but it's got red eyes instead of blue.
He's just a little guy.
Just a little guy. Until he's a big woman, but we'll get to that later.
Not the big woman.
So the guy gets chased by a dog, gets yammed up.
No, he doesn't.
He gets killed, doesn't he? No, but it is. No, he runs and he
locks
escapes.
himself in a building, but not the dilapidated building that we saw.
The building across the street.
Yeah, and
which
he shoots
is where
at
he
the
lives.
Dog.
And then we cut to the next scene, which is white boys buying drugs. These nice little white boys drive in with their nice little car.
They don't seem that nice to me either.
To this bad little neighborhood. And they buy drugs off of these two dealers. And the dealers say, oh, the drugs around the corner behind the loose brick. So they give the money and then they go around the corner to get the loose brick, leaving their car. They find the drugs behind the loose brick and they hear their car alarm going off. They realize, oh, we're stupid as fuck. We just been robbed. The car is gone.
Car's gone.
Gone.
And then they hear something else, don't they?
Well, because they run back to get the car, which they left outside of the creepy mansion.
The creepy mansion. It looks like a church. It's really cool. I like it a lot.
And then the police turn up. The fucking police turn up and they're like, shit, we got drugs, run. And the door to the creepy mansion opens.
Yes. And they hide in the house. And it looks like a church and it's really cool. But it's like dilapidated as shit.
Yeah.
And then they have like an Evil Dead flashback to like when the house was like not dilapidated. So the druggies, they hide in the house.
Yeah.
Because the police are coming.
Which was stupid of them.
Yeah.
And waiting for them inside the house is Cujo, this hellhound.
And they have a huge flashback to when the house is not dilapidated.
Yeah.
And Snoop's ghost turns up.
And like scares them. Yeah. And so they go running.
They run out of the house.
And then they stand on the doorstep like fucking idiots.
Because they're like, do we go in the house with the ghost? Or do we go out of the house with the police?
I'd rather get arrested.
I reckon they'd be alright. I mean,
yeah, they're just like two like middle class white boys.
Exactly. Like it's American police, they'll be fine.
Anyway, as they're sat on the doorstep panting, we hear some noises from behind them.
And it's the dog.
Because there's a shot of sort of the dark doorway behind them, and it's absolutely abyssal. Very good shot.
Love it.
And one of the friends gets sucked into it.
He gets dragged into it, and he's like scratching on the floor, and his nails are scratching, and it's all bloody and it's
it leaves
gross.
behind like fleshy, bloody claws on the floor.
He was desperate.
It was horrid to watch, to be honest.
I thought it was cool.
And after they die, it cuts to
1979. It cuts to a really sick opening scene with the credit, or opening sequence with the credits.
Yeah, I wasn't considering the credits.
Well, I was.
The credit opening scene is great because the first opening of the film starts with very dark, grungy lighting. Everything is a bit grey. There are green tones. Everything is quite dark. And then this opening credit sequence, everything has sort of a warm brown filter on it.
Very 70s.
And the streets are suddenly bustling. It shows the same street that the mansion is on, but there are buildings beside it now. And there is a whole lively neighborhood. But then it starts to get darker as what looks like quite a lively, happy neighborhood becomes closer up shots of people doing drugs.
Yeah.
People fighting, etc.
And we see Snoop in his car being driven around.
Like a pimp.
He has like a cool switchblade and a diamond ring.
Yo.
He's like the king of the city.
Sequence gets more frantic. The music gets more frantic. And then it cuts to modern day.
Present day.
Present day.
We're back at the creepy house. But it's daytime now. And a bunch of these stupid kids come rolling up in a van. And it turns out they have bought this house to become a nightclub. Without their dad knowing.
Yeah.
There is. Let me remember this. There's Patrick. There's Maurice. There's, I want to say his Patrick's brother, but I don't remember his name. And they have a sister called Tia.
The
or
white
stepsister.
one.
Sister? I don't know. Let's say sister. Yeah, she's the.
It's their stepsister. She's white.
She's the white one. Was there any more?
Did you, the post-racial guy?
Yeah, that's Maurice.
Oh, that's Maurice.
Maurice. He says he's post-racial.
Yeah, because he's like mixed race. What's that?
He's above race. He doesn't see colour.
Patrick is the one that bought the house.
Yeah.
And they all turn up to the house together. He surprises them. He says, we're going to start a club here. His brother is a DJ. He wants to do something to impress his father. His father's a businessman. He thinks that this is going to really impress his father.
And he was talking about how his dad made himself from nothing.
Yeah.
And he was born in this area before his mum died. And he grew up in a very rich neighbourhood somewhere else because his dad managed to claw his way out of this area.
And he wanted to prove that he could be just as successful. So they turn up to the house. And one thing I loved is as they're walking through the front door, you can still see the claw marks on the floor from, however long ago when the two white boys got dragged in. I loved the brightness of the claw marks.
I reckon it was last night. I think so.
You think it was the night before?
Yeah.
That's possible.
Because when they go in, they're like going through all this stuff and there's a jawbone on the floor with teeth still attached, and there's still flesh on it,
Yeah.
and it's quite red.
It definitely wasn't that long ago.
No, and I reckon it was recent because they're like, because it's so like it's got flesh and stuff on it. So I reckon this dog has been kind of killing people in this house for a long time.
Yeah. But they look around the house, which I love the house. It was very
So
cool
good.
visually. It was gothic, real honest. It was all practical effects. There was cobwebs. Things looked like they were falling apart.
There's always that jawbone. They said it was a cat.
And again, just as you walked into it, everything just became grey and dark. How they muted the colours so perfectly without muting the colour of the characters.
I reckon that's probably color grading. You can do that.
It's amazing. I mean, but I'm just impressed with the fact that they had a cast of people of colour who were all decently lit the entire film while also being incredibly creative with the colouring of everything else.
Yeah. Well, I think most of the cast and crew were people of colour.
Which
from what I read online.
shows that it can get done if you care.
Yeah. Give a shit, filmmakers.
And then, of course, the white girl finds the demon dog and she goes, "Oh my god, baby! Take my hamburger!" She sees this demon dog.
Yeah, she's like, "Do you want my hamburger?" And this dog rips it out of her hand. And she's like, "Oh, you were really hungry."
I mean, not to like play on stereotypes, but like genuinely leave it to a white woman to go, "Oh no, this poor creature, I need to take him in and take him home."
I would not be doing that.
So they sort of pseudo adopt this dog, and they have a look around. They share their opinions. Some of them are happy about it. Some of them are a bit hesitant.
Yeah.
Either way, they start to head out and they take the dog with them.
They leave the house and then they get a warning from the residents of the neighborhood.
Yeah.
There's a psychic lady. We call her Mama Psychic because I can't remember her name. And her daughter, Baby Psychic,
Yeah.
who's like 20. And then you have the guy from the window earlier who was shooting at the dog.
Yeah.
And they say, "Don't go near that fucking house. Shoot the dog."
Yeah. They say the dog has a hunger that will never be satisfied or something like that. Which sounds spooky as fuck. They ignore it anyway. They're like, "Oh, stop, lady." But they're very nice, though. They're like, see her, that Mama Psychic has shopping bags. And like, "Let us help you. We're neighbors now. We want to make a great impression."
I reckon he was trying to impress the girl because he had a little thing.
I think... What's his name?
Patrick has a thing for Baby Psychic.
I think
I wanna say her name
one
is
of them was
Cynthia.
just being genuinely nice and the other brother was just trying to get after baby.
Yeah, definitely.
That's my opinion.
I think her name is Cynthia, but I just keep calling her Baby Psychic.
I still think they're quite nice people.
Yeah, they're nice.
Yeah, I like our main characters. I think that they're morally good people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stupid, but good.
Stupid but good.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's good to establish.
Throughout the film, a lot of the times when they're in the house, they have these really cool, like, Evil Dead flashbacks. And that happens, one, to the drug dealers, but that's not as Evil Dead-y. But it also happens when they find the dog. And they... And it kind of, like... It's like, if you're having these flashbacks and bad omens, why the fuck are you staying here? You know?
Yeah.
You
And
just keep coming back after having these flashbacks. And they're like, "What was that?" And then they just continue on their day. They don't even acknowledge it.
Genuinely, they don't give a damn. I will say we start to get these shots of 4 different things that seem to be threats. So the main thing we're seeing is the dog with the demon eyes. The next thing that we're seeing is the vision of some sort of creature or ghost that's completely red.
Yeah.
So we see this sort of creature watching our main characters through this red gaze. The other thing is a door in the basement, which has a padlock on it that is shaking like something's trying to get out.
So Evil Dead.
And another shot of sort of a basement floor that is glowing green like a grave and almost looks like the ground is breathing.
I thought it was cool. I liked it.
It was very cool.
Yeah.
But it's like, what are these 4 things?
Yeah.
How do they relate?
A lot of foreshadowing, which is really fun.
Yeah.
So they get in the van to go home to tell Dad about what happened. This is when we get the line about Maurice being post-racial.
Yeah, because they're like, "You're not black," and he's like, "Oh, I'm post-racial. I'm evolution. I'm a mix of everything."
And he also has a really great line about KFC, and he's like, they put something in the chicken to make the black man sterile. I just wrote KFC equals KKK in the notes because I was like, how else do you summarize that?
At this point, we at this
Chicken's out to get.
at this point, oh Lord Jesus.
They come home.
At this point, we get to see the king drug dealer. King drug dealer runs sort of the drug ring in this neighborhood, and he's talking to his two subordinates who talk about how they just sold drugs to two stupid white boys and they stole their car.
Yeah.
You all remember the two stupid white boys?
It's the greatest threat of all time, and it's, if you don't fix this, I'm gonna burn your asses and snort your ashes.
Which I believe him. I believe we also meet his little girlfriend.
Yeah. Snowflake.
Snowflake. Oh Lord.
I'm surprised I didn't just call her Snow Bunny.
He also reveals that he is in cahoots with the police officers. Because he says, stop making trouble because my deal with the police officers is very fragile, and if you start making too much trouble, the deal might be off. Corrupt police. Surprise, surprise.
Well, he turns up
Does.
asks for a payment.
Officer fat suit.
Yeah.
So the police officer's in a fat suit for the whole film.
And he's always chewing.
And he's always chewing. They make him look very grotesque and disgusting. He's always eating something. And he's
Little
being
piggy.
very greasy and gross towards women.
Yeah.
Very uncomfortable.
At one point when he's talking to this boss, he's like, I want something extra, and he points at the girlfriend.
Snowflake.
Yeah. And then the guy's like, no. And then he's like threatening him, and they're chatting and whatever. And then she pulls out a wad of cash from her like underwear and gives it to him to get him to go away. And he sniffs it.
Coochie coins.
I just put vag money sniff.
Vag money. I put coochie coins.
Vag money sniff.
He does. He sniffed the dollar bills, which is just disgusting, even if it hadn't come from her cooch. But then the fact that it also came from her cooch.
That makes it so much worse.
What is wrong with him?
What the fuck are you doing?
Just now.
Ew.
After this, we see the family. We see, I keep forgetting his name. Peter?
Patrick goes home with his family and tells his dad what he's done. Well, he tells him he's been around the area, and the dad gives him another warning, and it says, don't go places you don't belong. You don't know anything about that neighborhood. You don't want to be there.
No, you don't.
And then he's also like, I have to feed 3 children, and then Maurice the bottomless pit, and now this fucking dog. And then it turns out that they named the dog Bones after they found out who used to own the house, which was Jimmy Bones.
Jimmy Bones, which Maurice, Mr. Post-racial, right?
Yeah.
He's the one that remembered the nursery rhyme.
Yeah.
Because there used to be a nursery rhyme about Bones, which, why is there always a nursery rhyme? But I can't remember how it went. But you know when there's a nursery rhyme, it's about to get creepy.
Yeah. It's like darker than night, switchblade in hand, diamond on the like finger or something.
Something like that. It was cute. And
right.
they showed, when we first heard it, they showed flashbacks of like little girls playing jump rope and stuff.
It was like, you know the scene in Nightmare on Elm Street, where they're like the Freddy girls and they're jumping.
1, 2,
yeah. They were trying.
They were.
Oh
my god, which Freddy Krueger film is it where he drags the bitch through the door window?
Oh yeah, I've seen. That's the first one, isn't it?
I think so. It happens when you think the story is over. I'll never forget that. Because she becomes a mannequin and just gets snatched through the door. My favorite kill ever.
The dad's like, don't go in that fucking area. And the guy's like, I'm going to do what I want.
Yeah, he's like, I worked so hard to get us out, and now you're trying to put us back in.
And then the police knocks on the door.
Yeah, so the father leaves dinner, or his family, to go talk to the police officer, which, by the way, we get a close-up of the police officer's face now, and the fat prosthetics look awful. I will say, my one big issue with this film was his prosthetics. The sort of color of his prosthetics on his cheeks were completely different than his forehead and the rest of his skin. It's almost like they didn't use the same like foundation color on both.
Yeah.
Wasn't a fan, but it did actually make him look more ugly and grotesque, which I think served his character because he was an ugly, grotesque cunt. of all the people in this film that sort of did something bad, he was the objectively most morally bad.
Yeah,
and
he
I
was
think
awful the whole time.
they tried to reflect that in his outer body.
Yeah. But it is revealed that the dad, Pops, is what I've heard him as in my thing. 'Cause I think we do learn his name. It's like Jaybird or something.
Yeah.
But like, I'm assuming he doesn't use that around his like rich family. So
No.
yeah, I don't think his kids would respect him as much if he went by Jaybird.
Well, knowing his kids, they probably would.
Yeah.
But that's so cool.
But it turns out that the policeman and Pops were in cahoots about something that happened in that house.
Yeah, because police officers like, if they find out about what we did in the house, what happened in the house, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
That was my impression of their conversation.
So cuts to the next day again. This film takes place over a few days, so it'll go evening night a lot. And there's the baby psychics at the house with Patrick and the other guys, and they do this thing where like she's kind of doing like psychic kind of like warnings, but then he's kind of interpreting it as flirting, and then it kind of just melds together.
Yeah.
And you're just like, what's going on?
She's feeling a little, baby psychic's feeling very rebellious against mama psychic.
Yeah.
So she's not listening to her, and she's going to this like evil mansion so that she can feel like she's her own independent person. Also because she got a thing for Patrick. She keeps coming back.
She does.
She just keeps coming back, and it's like, do you want to die?
You don't learn your lesson, and you're gonna die. But
especially because she herself is psychic, and she is feeling and seeing the bad energies.
she could do a reading and figure out who the hell is in haunting that house.
But she doesn't take her gift serious, as we see in a scene with her mother, in which she says, "I don't want to waste my gift. I'm gonna be a painter."
Paint's not that good.
No, her paint's not that good. She should just become a psychic. Girl, make some money.
And you get the cool aesthetic of the psychic, you know? I think they look so sick. So whilst they're fixing up this house, one of the guys takes a nap in the house with his headphones on. And whilst he's napping, it's like a horizontal shot, and he's like lying on the floor, and then above him you see the wall kind of shift and change, and this really introduced another kind of aspect to the haunting.
Yeah.
And it's like these tar covered people, or amalgamations of people. They look like they were once people, but some of them are missing like faces entirely apart from their mouths. Their hands are falling off, that kind of shit.
They look like that particular type of visualization of hell, in which it's sort of thousands of human bodies squished together in arms and faces clawing out.
Yeah,
it was very much that vibe.
Yeah. And then he doesn't like register it at all because he's got his headphones on, and then he wakes up because he senses something, and he goes and helps and does whatever.
Why would you sleep in that house?
Well, also, it's disgusting in there.
Yeah, it's so gross. I didn't see them like change the bed sheets or anything.
Like I'm sorry, I'm more afraid of bed bugs than I am of ghosts.
You're gonna catch something.
I'm not sleeping in that fucking tetanus house. Absolutely not.
No.
But as he's getting up to leave the room, we see Jimmy Bones in the mirror.
In the mirror, yeah. The mirror on the ceiling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks like one of those mirrors they have in like the corner shop to stop you from stealing. Why is it in your house?
Because Snoop Dogg want to make sure you're not stealing.
There's nothing left to steal. It's fucking barren.
I will say that the sequence with the tar-covered people reaching out and being creepy was all physical effects. So they had actors covered in sort of like black goo doing these sort of creepy movements, and it was very effective because they had a lot of them, and it really did give off a very suffocating feeling of moist, hot, and uncomfortable. It was scary. I loved the physical effects.
It was actually scary. And we've watched I reckon between the two of us, you've watched a lot more than me. But I've watched a decent amount of horror films, and it's been a long time since I've been like actually like, ooh, that's like bad. That's uncomfortable.
Like that, such a physical sort of like, ooh, I'm like, you know.
Especially for like 2001, and it still holds up. Like, that's pretty good.
It is pretty good.
Now we get the scene where baby psychic's like, I don't want to be a psychic, Mom. I want to be a painter. And she's like, don't go to that fucking house. The dick can't be that good.
Yeah, stop going.
Your dead dad's haunting it.
It doesn't end kind of well. It's a bit bitter. And then Mama Psychic goes back to her room and starts looking at old photos of her and Snoop Dogg.
Oh, and he winks, doesn't he?
/ Bones, yeah. And she looks at this photo of her and Bones. And in the photo, he starts to turn to look at her. She drops the photo, screams,
Yeah.
picks up the photo, looks. And now whereas originally in the photo, he was looking at her in the picture. He's now looking at her in real life from the picture. The photo has changed. Then we get a flashback of who she used to be. So we see her back in the day with Bones, and they used to be together.
She had style in the 70s.
She
She has
did.
style now in the 2000s as a psychic. But I love the 70s style with all the colours and the patterns.
The
It's lovely.
scarf, the afro, it was given.
The afro with the scarf is just so classic.
And they seem like they had a really nice relationship.
Very
see
sweet.
A scene in which she's trying to read his palm and he's being coy about it. It's very sweet and back and forth. And she reads his palm and she sees something really bad. And she says, oh no, don't go to this meeting.
Stay with me.
Stay with me. Let's not go. And he doesn't necessarily believe in that. So he
No.
doesn't take it seriously. And he says a little smooth
Oh,
line.
yeah. He's like, I'm going to kiss you on neck later or something like that.
No, he says, because she's talking about his hands.
Yeah.
And he's like, don't worry. These hands going to be stroking your neck later.
Yeah, that's the one. He's smooth.
It was smooth. I mean, he looked good. I loved his little bob. The silk press was given. Yeah, it was real good.
But listen to women.
Listen to women when they say
Listen
don't-
to women.
don't
If
go
you
to
have a
work.
psychic girlfriend, listen to her so that you stay alive.
Yeah.
That's just a message for next time.
So we cut back to the kids in the house. It's the next day.
Oh, yeah. And they're in the fucking basement and a baby psychic's there for some reason.
Yeah.
Back.
Baby psychic came over again because her mother told her not to.
Yeah. And they're looking at these pipes and there's blood all
She's
over
got
these pipes.
demand avoidance.
Well, I remember watching this with you and I'm like, oh, yeah, she's been dickmatized and she hasn't even had any dick yet.
Well, because she wants it. When she gets it, she'll leave it. But yeah, they find blood sort of pouring out of the pipes.
And they're like, oh, yeah, that's just rust.
Yeah, like Russ, he's like, that ain't Russ, what you talking about? And then the dog leads them to the door in the base. And this is what was quite interesting. You obviously had all these creepy things that we were getting shots of.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they all come together in one shot in which the dog leads them to the door with the padlock. They open the door with the padlock and it leads to a passage which leads down to the weird grave that was glowing earlier. Now it's not
Secret
glowing,
room.
but it was earlier.
And one of the guys is like, oh, this could be a great recording space.
It was a dusty room.
And they look down and then there's just a dead body.
Yeah, the dog digs up the ground and there is just bones.
Jimmy Bones is Bones.
Yeah, Jimmy Bones on the ground. Oh, technically the dog's name is Bones. So Bones dug up Jimmy Bones.
Yeah.
Or Bones dug up Bones.
Yeah.
Whew.
And he's got, and they figure out it's Jimmy by looking at, and they do the rhyme. They're like, a switchblade and a diamond. He is back. You know, that's his bones
Yeah, and the switchblade is
in his chest.
lodged into his ribcage. And they're like, oh my God, I can't remember who it is. One of them says, oh my God, don't touch it. This could be evidence for the
Yeah.
police or whatever. I think it's the white girl that wants to call
Yeah.
the police, yeah. The white girl's like, it's evidence. And like, what do you mean? And like, oh, well, this is clearly a murder. Like, I don't think he stabbed himself.
And buried himself.
But they're like, well, this body's been here for like 3 decades. You know?
I
And-
reckon they should report it to not obviously knowing what we know about the police in this town. Probably not the police, but maybe like a hazmat team or someone who deals with dead bodies.
They would get the police involved.
I guess so, but like,
The reason why they didn't want to, one of the characters says this, is because they wouldn't get a license, like a liquor license.
yeah,
If they find out someone died there, then they'd struggle legally with getting
that's
everything
such
they
a
need
fucking stupid reason in
to
my
be a
opinion.
nightclub. I don't think it is. I think that mixed with their inherent distrust of police because they are black men.
Yeah,
Because like, why the fuck would you trust the police?
but
Especially because we know that they're corrupt.
at least give the like take the body somewhere nice and give it a proper burial or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
You shouldn't just leave it there and then build a fucking nightclub on top of a dead body. I'm not superstitious, but that's disrespect in my opinion.
It is, but like we're always on top of dead people.
We are always on top of dead people, but we don't build nightclubs on top of all the dead people. Just some of them.
I'm sure there are dead people under every single nightclub that ever existed.
You know that when we were at uni, there was actually like a couple of years before we got there was a church nightclub in Bournemouth,
I love that.
and I reckon there's at least a few dead bodies under that.
Well, there you go. See.
Yeah, but you don't. Yeah, but he's right there. He's not under the ground. He's in their recording studio.
Well, it's very unusual, but they just ignore these bones. They all just head back upstairs. They close the door to that basement, and they just forget it's there. They don't think about him. They pay it no mind that they just found a fucking skeleton.
And Maurice takes the diamond. He takes the finger off first.
Yeah, he takes the diamond ring off the skeleton before everyone else leaves, and Maurice, post-racial, stays behind and takes the diamond ring, but he snatches the whole damn finger.
Yeah.
How disrespectful, like, to rob the dead already, but to take the whole damn finger. And I thought, oh, okay, sure. But then he flings the finger back into the
He's like, you can
pit.
keep that.
So, oh, you can keep that. Oh, I don't want that. Nasty, gross. I just want the ring. Like, what a bitch.
What does he plan on doing with this ring? Is he going to wear it? Is he going to sell it? Like, no one in this town's going to buy Jimmy Bones' diamond fucking ring.
No.
And
And
also,
it was an ugly ring.
fair enough.
It was an ugly ring.
But the town doesn't look very rich either, so he'd have to go out of town to sell that shit.
Mm-hmm. But as we know, he doesn't even go to sell it because he keeps it on until the end of the film.
Yeah.
So he just wanted it. This ugly ring. Disrespectful. Risk your life for something so hideous.
They just take what they want.
Oh, and then, so she don't know it yet, but we can kind of assume at this point, since we saw that mama psychic used to date Jimmy Bones, that baby psychic is most likely Bones' daughter. I think that becomes a bit like kind of a guess at the time. And it's very weird because she just seen her own daddy's bones. She doesn't know that, but she did.
But even,
and the next time we
see
see her,
sorry, go on.
next time we see her, she's getting horny with Patrick up in his room.
Yeah.
They just discovered a skeleton, a whole dead body. They close the basement door, head upstairs, and then go get freaky.
Well, yeah, because she was reminded of Bones.
She wanted his bone.
She was like, "Oh, Bones are downstairs." I was thinking of a different kind of bone.
She just, I'd already to ignore the skeleton, but not to be a little bit uncomfortable or just immediately be in a horny mood. They start making out, start doing stuff, and then
she gets a vision.
She sort of gets a flash of a vision of a ghost, an entity, a spirit
like
coming over her.
A shadow falls over them for a second.
And she's like, "Oh, I can't do this.
No.
Stop." And he's like, "Oh, right, yeah, that's fine."
Yeah, very respectful. Nice.
Yeah.
And then she goes to sleep in that house. She doesn't even go home.
Yeah, because he's like, "Oh, you want to go home?" And she's like, No, I want to stay. I just don't want to fuck." And he's like, "Okay, cool." So he leaves in the room. So sweet. Lets her have the room to herself.
Yeah.
She goes to sleep in the room.
And her mum, at the same time of this, because it cuts back to her mum, is doing a seance in the like psychic shop.
And she's calling on the spirits. And a spirit arrives and says it has a message for her. And it starts giving her flashes of her daughter. Meanwhile, the daughter's having a vision / nightmare where some sort of entity has come under the sheets, and underneath the sheets has taken the form of like a man
and is molesting her.
Is molesting her, is touching her up. She thinks it's Patrick, and she's like, "Oh,
stop, Patrick. Yeah.
Which this entity continues to touch her, and it gets a bit more like, "Oh no, Patrick, stop, Patrick, go." While her mother's seeing this in her visions and also seeing other visions, these sort of like, some are quite abstract. There's one of sort of her daughter on a bed, a sheet that's sort of covered in blood, and she's in a pool of blood, sort of wiggling around on this fabric.
A really cool production design in this bit.
Very cool, and it's all practical as well, which I really loved. And we get to see more of their blood. They use the same blood for every scene, and it's just very thick, very bright.
It's like paint.
Yeah, but it's such a distinct color, which it wasn't very realistic, but I just loved the style of it.
I think this whole film doesn't go for realism. I think it goes for feeling over realism, which I appreciate a lot. Like the production design in this film, they use fog, they use colorful fog, they use blood that looks like this, they use effects that don't look realistic, and it adds a lot to the film in a way that modern films just don't do, because they're so focused on realism and they're so focused on making you feel gritty and sad, not even scared anymore, because it's all like elevated or like slashes. And I kind of miss that. I miss it a lot. Like 80s, 90s production design for horror movies.
Yes.
But I will say, I don't think the scene really works well in this film. Like
which scene?
The molesting scene. Because at this point, we've guessed that it's Jimmy Bones, it's her dad, right? because it's just too convenient that the psychic woman was Jimmy Bones' girl and that she has a daughter but no husband in the picture, right? That's just too convenient. Even at this point, we knew it was Jimmy Bones was her dad. And so it feels weird that she's having this molesting dream, and this whole time you don't know it's a dream until it's over, because this whole time you're thinking, is this a ghost? Or, you know what I mean, what's actually happening here?
Yeah.
And you don't know that it's just a dream until it's done. So you're thinking, her ghost dad is molesting her.
Yeah.
And that doesn't really work with Jimmy Bones' character at all.
But it could also be Cujo. Because the dog could shapeshift. We see earlier on in the film the dog turns into a rat.
Isn't Cujo a kind of manifestation of Bones' power?
I thought
Aren't they connected?
I thought because of what happened to him, the house was in a state of sort of supernatural unrest, and I thought that the Cujo dog was sort of a hellhound, not protecting, but sort of there warding where there's so much unrest of the dead.
Okay.
That's what I saw it more as, like a hellhound, because the house, because of how much unrest there was there, was almost like a gateway to hell. It was this spiritual, I can't remember how it's described by the psychic later on, but it's almost like a layer between worlds, between the world of the living and the world of the dead. It's a veil sort of in between. This house has become, and that's why I thought there was a hellhound there. I didn't think he was actually related to.
Well, he does everything that Bones kind of commands him to, though. Throughout the film, he does things that benefit Bones.
Well,
and I feel like you kind of, in the poster for Bones, it's Snoop Dogg with red eyes, and the dog has red eyes, and Snoop is always framed in kind of, like, in his evil form, he's framed in, like, red later in the film, and he's got a red tie, you know what I mean? But that's why I don't really think that is Cujo. Like, I think it's definitely a ghost of some kind, but I don't think it's Bones. But I don't think it's Cujo either.
Oh yeah, I don't think it's Bones.
No.
I don't think he molested his own daughter.
No. But that's why when you're watching...
Well, he didn't know he had a daughter.
No. But when you're watching the scene for the first time, you're thinking, is this Bones doing this horrible thing to this woman? Or, you know what I mean?
Is it Patrick?
Before you know it's a dream, it doesn't really work for his character for him to be doing that anyway, because in these flashbacks that you see of Snoop as Bones, like the king of the street, basically, he's generous, he's giving people money, he's helping people open business, he's looking after kids, do you know what I mean? He's like a benefactor, like a benevolent father of this like community. Yeah. And so I just don't think this scene adds anything to the film. I love the visuals in the like flashbacks and the scenes and stuff, but I don't think that molesty part
it could
adds
just
anything
be
to the film.
An abstract vision that she was having, because it was just a dream, and it could be that nothing actually was coming to harm her. It was just her psychic ability giving her
a warning,
an abstract warning.
Yeah. I just don't think, like, I love the rest of the film.
I definitely think they could have done something else and been effective as well. I don't think, like, you know, you could always replace that scene. It's not something that was so essential at all. But I don't know, I didn't have too much of an issue with it. I think it made me uncomfortable, and I think it wanted you to be uncomfortable.
I mean, I think that's fine, but the film does other things that make you uncomfortable, and it's just as effective. And I think that, like, when you're watching it, you're like, okay, but then when you reflect on it back, then you're thinking, why was that scene in there? Do you know? You know?
I don't know.
That's how I felt about it.
I feel like it fit into the scene. I don't know.
I don't know. It just doesn't, like, and it never comes up again.
No, but almost nothing comes up again like that.
I guess so.
But yeah, no, it's also fair critiques to that scene. I mean, she wakes up, she realizes this is a dream. Patrick comes in, he's like, oh my god, because he heard a scream because she was having a night terror. And he's like, are you okay? Her mother is done with her visions. She immediately runs over to the haunted mansion and is like, where's my daughter? Where's my daughter? The daughter runs down, baby psychic runs downstairs and is like, mommy. Yeah. She takes her home.
And then it cuts to the next day again. And Patrick is driving his dad to the club to show him. And I find it really funny because we've not actually seen that much of the renovation of this club at all. No. And so suddenly we're seeing like them put the sign up as like the finishing touch of this club. And it's like, now we're all done. I'm just going to drive Pops down here and show him everything.
They've done nothing. They bought this like ancient building that's falling apart. It's all grey and dusty and ugly. And they've just put up a sign and been like, it's a nightclub now. That's all they did. And maybe hung up some lights inside. And that's it. So he's showing his daddy the what are we calling it? Haunted Mansion? Evil House?
I don't know.
Bones Manor.
Bones' house. They're
Bones'
showing Bones' house as the club. They put a sign on and decided that's what makes it a club. A sign. And
Daddy's like, oh, what do you mean? What are you doing?
why did you bring me here? And then we get the famous, I didn't claw my way out of this shithole for you to climb back in.
Yeah. And then he looks across the street and we see the guy who lives across the street with the gun.
Yeah.
And he's looking at him, the dad, and he's giving him this sort of like nod and this like smile. It's very weird.
Yeah.
And then is Mama Psychic there too?
No.
I can't remember. But all I know is we end up getting a flashback to the night that Bones was killed.
We get a flashback to the meeting beforehand, and we see what they were trying to do. And it was, who was in the meeting? It was Bones' bodyguard, and it was the gang boss leader, who we saw earlier with his girlfriend Snowflake, but that was obviously probably before Snowflake was even born. And we have Pops, who was some kind of hustler back in the day, and then you have the police officer, who was skinnier than.
Yeah, this police officer used to be skinny.
Yeah.
And I think the dad at that time was like Bones' like right hand man / like business assistant.
Yeah.
Because Bones does say later on that he like, you got a piece of everything I had, like you you know.
Yeah.
Also, Bones' bodyguard in this flashback is now the man that lives across the street with the gun.
Yeah.
Just to clarify.
I didn't even know that until just now. I'm really bad with faces.
Yes.
So bad.
That was like a big part of the film.
No, because I remember the bodyguard being bald and the guy in the house had a hat on. And I was like, I can't be the same guy.
He can't be bald. He has a hat on. Bald guys don't wear hats.
Sorry.
That's cool.
And it's a poor neighborhood that Bones runs, but it's a nice neighborhood, and he takes care of it very well.
And he loves his people.
Yes.
He says, these are my people.
He says, I never want to leave this street, is what he says at one point.
Mm-hmm.
And these three men have offered Bones an opportunity to sell meth in his neighborhood. And Bones says, you can do whatever you want, but you're not selling it here.
Yeah. This is my neighborhood. They're basically trying to, ruin the neighborhood by implementing drugs so that they can get rich quick.
Yeah.
The police officer is going to cover it all with his police officer business.
Yeah.
The drug dealer is going to run it. And the dad wants the money because he's just money hungry. And he thinks, oh, we can get money and I can get out of this place.
Yeah. He just hates the place he grew up in so much that he wants to leave by any means.
Symbolic of like the American government going into black neighborhoods and destabilizing them with drugs.
Yeah.
That's sort of like the message of the film, which I thought was really cool for a horror film to do that.
Yeah.
But Bones says, no, I ain't doing this.
And they keep trying to get him to try it. They want him to get like addicted to the substance, so he has to say yes.
Yeah.
Or at least so incapacitated that he can't refuse them. Like, just try it. And he says, leave the house. They go into the foyer with the big staircase and stuff. And the police officer holds the gun to Bones and he says, you have to try this meth. You have to try it.
So they hold the pipe to his mouth. The drug dealer puts a little crystal in the pipe and they light it and Bones is forced to take a pull. Yeah.
And he's like incapacitated, but he still attempts to throw the switchblade at the policeman.
Yeah.
So that they can get out, or he can get out of this, obviously, right?
Yeah, he tries to fight back.
But it doesn't work because he's so like inebriated by that puff.
Yeah. And the police officer then like fills, because Bones is trying to attack with the switchblade, the police officer fills him with bullets. Yeah. Like shoots him like 16 times over and over again. And again, we get more of that like bright red splattering blood all over the police officer. And then as he hits the ground, his girlfriend walks in. Screams, seeing that Bones has been killed. And she starts crying. And Bones,
runs towards him, holds him. And the officer says, if we're going to hang for this, we're going to hang together. And he says, get the switchblade. Each one of you does a stab. And his two accomplices does it. And he even gets the bodyguard to do it. The bodyguard almost grabs a gun, but he decides he decides to try and save his own life instead and stabs Bones.
Yeah, because the police officer's threatening them with the gun. He says, if you don't stab Bones, I'll shoot you.
Yeah. And then he forces the girlfriend to do the same. But as she's crying, saying, I can't, Bones pulls the knife towards him.
And stabs himself.
Essentially taking the choice from her and choosing to end his own life.
Which was kind of sweet and beautiful.
Yeah. And now we're back in present day. And the club is open. The DJ and the owners are black. And all of the patrons are white. That's what we noticed. And it's like we figured out the secret to making a good club, and it was make the bartenders gay so all the drinks are strong.
Yeah.
The DJ is black, and all of the patrons are rich white people, basically.
Yeah. I mean, it was because there's not that many white people in this film, and all of a sudden the club was just teeming with them. Teeming. In fact, the only two black people I saw in the club was the psychic girl.
Yeah, baby psychic.
And then this one just like out of nowhere, very attractive black woman.
Oh, she was so
who
fit.
flirts with the DJ.
Yeah. Oh, and they play a song in this film, and we thought it was Clown Posse, but it wasn't. And the line we got from the song was, I want to suck on a nurse's titties.
I love that though. Oh, I feel like it's important to mention that when they were all stabbing Bones, the police officer did use the N-word. He did say the N-word. The white police officer, Officer Fatsuit, said the N-word at Bones. I feel like that's a really important part to say about his character.
Fuck that guy.
That he is a racist piece of shit.
If you weren't already aware.
If you weren't already aware or assumed.
The club's going decent. People are drinking. There's pizza. I've never had pizza at a club. The closest I've been is there was a club near us in uni that had toast.
I love that. Because that's what you need when you drink a little too much.
To be fair, pizza and beer, like, it's an American classic.
It is.
And it's good.
So the party's pumping. We see the that baby psychic is there.
Dancing with Patrick.
She's like, hey, Patrick. And then we see post-racial DJ. Post-racial's helping the DJ. And he's, putting on records. And then he sees this woman at the front of the dance floor who is, moving and flirting with him, giving him eyes.
She's so pretty.
She's very pretty. And he's like, ooh. And she starts to walk away, but like keeping eye contact with him. And he's like, oh, I gotta go do this.
He's like, I'll be back in 2 minutes. just can you do
2 minutes. Disappointing.
Can you do an extended solo?
So he like follows this like beautiful woman up the stairs. She leads him into this room.
And there's nothing in the room.
No. And so he opens the door, he steps in, and I believe exactly what he says is because remember, this is Mr. International, this is Mr. Post-racial.
He just starts speaking in different languages.
Before that.
Okay.
Before that, because we cannot forget this line. He says, if you ain't got no culture in you, you about to have all of them in you.
Ew.
Mm-hmm. And then he starts very badly speaking French.
He spoke Russian as well.
Russian and probably a bit Spanish.
Yeah.
I don't know where he got this from. And we see the woman in the corner and it's very dark. We can see her body, but her face is shrouded in shadow.
Her face turned into the dog's face. She was Cujo the whole time. This man was going after Cujo's coochie.
Mm-hmm. And she rips his face off. He collapses to the floor. And then she turns back into Cujo the dog and starts ripping his body to pieces.
She's having dinner.
The flesh was stringy. The blood was bright. Again, I love the physical effects so much. They're so good. Charming, so uncomfortable. I just miss physical effects so bad. Basically, she's eating him, flesh ripping, whatever. And then Patrick comes upstairs because he's looking for post-racial.
Yeah.
And he opens up the door and sees that Cujo is ripping post-racial to pieces.
Oh.
And then Cujo's face morphs slightly into semi-human. I think it might, I don't know what it was. It almost looked like a pig, but it was, well, pigs have very human faces. But it goes like semi-human and he says,
the gangster of love don't need no fried chicken.
Weirdest line. Cujo, the gangster
I
of
didn't
love
even think
don't
Cujo
need no
could
fried
talk.
chicken. I don't know why Cujo said that, but it was so funny.
I hope he's not an extension of Bones now. Jesus Christ.
I I will say we didn't write down every joke, but there were a lot of jokes in this film.
Yeah.
It was very funny. A lot
Very
of them
humorous.
hit very well. A lot of them were really funny.
A lot of them are towards the tail end. I think
Yeah.
it could have balanced it a bit.
Definitely. It was more serious towards the beginning. But it's a very funny film. I liked the humor. It was silly. It was camp. But yeah, so Cujo says, go on one more time.
The gangster of love don't need no fried chicken.
While he's ripping through post-Rachel's flesh.
And then he vomits maggots.
At Patrick. And
He
it
goes,
covers him. Like, you seen that? You remember that? Is it the first Scary Movie scene?
Oh, yeah.
He, like, comes on her and she ends up, like, blasted to the ceiling with cum.
God, we need to watch a scary movie at one point.
I love that. We will. Like that scene, but, like, maggots.
Yeah.
Like, so many maggots. And he just keeps vomiting over and over again. And they end up in Patrick's mouth. It's disgusting.
I almost gagged. Like,
And
it was
then-
just awful.
We see close up of Cujo's like dog mouth. It's a real dog, and it's got maggots. Obviously, the maggots fake, but it's got maggots in its mouth, and it's just so uncomfortable and gross. And then Cujo turns into dust and seeps through the floorboards down into the basement, where what we didn't mention is where Bones's bones were. But slowly, we did get a flashback of this earlier. We didn't mention it, but Bones's body is slowly being covered in flesh.
Yeah.
And Cujo goes down to the basement floor, and I think that now that he's eaten some flesh from post-Rachel, he's feeding that into Bones, because Bones sucks Cujo into his mouth. Cujo dust. It's Coochie dust, sorry.
Does he give the ring back at this point, or is it later?
No, that's later on. So he takes Cujo and uses that as the last kick to get him back to life.
Yeah.
And Bones is resurrected.
But before Bones can do anything, there's mayhem above, because the maggots drip down from the floorboards and start covering everything. They're in the beer.
They're in cleavage.
They're in the pizza. They're in the boobs.
Mm-hmm. They're on the record player.
They're in
They're
the
on
music.
the dance floor. They're in everyone's hair. People don't notice at first. People are eating the pizza with maggots on it.
And then this guy picks one out and he's like, ah.
Yeah, people are drinking their drinks with maggots in it, sucking it up through straws. And then people realize and they start screaming and panicking.
All running out.
Because which, by the way, it was a bit
There's
extra.
so many of them.
It's gross, but they were acting like the place was gonna like blow up, which
Yeah, but the amount of maggots,
it was disgusting.
I would have done that. I would have been
They're falling
fucking
from the
gone.
ceiling. It was gross. Okay.
It was disgusting.
And then so everyone's freaking out, and Bones, and now he's resurrected, starts to make his way up from the third basement.
And he touches the gas, which we saw previously was faulty. The wiring's faulty.
And he blows up the basement as
Yeah.
he's walking up the stairs.
It's a sick shot because he's in the silhouette and he's wearing this sick ass like top hat and he's walking up the stairs and there's fire behind him. It looks amazing.
And everyone freaks out because they hear the explosion, they see the fire,
And the maggots.
and people are trying to run out and escape. This will just burn the house down, and everyone runs out. Which, by the way, was so funny because they should have done that earlier. And I think one of the characters says that. I can't remember if it's the father or Mama Psychic, but someone says, "Oh, we should have burned that down ages ago." Which is very funny because, you know, Bones really said, "I'll do it myself."
Yeah.
Like, y'all should have just like done this years ago. They think it's all over because the house is burnt down. Everyone goes home.
Yeah.
And then we see Bones resurrected as this like entity now, and he is on
New suit and everything.
a very casual revenge stroll.
Yeah.
So his first hit is the bodyguard who lives across the street. So he goes into the house, and the bodyguard's like, "Man, you know, I loved you. Like, we were cool. I looked after you. I didn't want to do it." And he's like, "What else could I have done?" And then Bones is like, "Well, you could have died with me.
Or you could have died
Or
trying.
you could have died trying."
Sick line.
Yeah. So then he slits his throat. It's very sad, but, you know, he's done with him. Then we see him going on a stroll in the street again. Very casual midnight stroll for revenge. And he bumps into the two drug dealers.
Yeah.
The little car thefts from the beginning of the film.
Yes.
And they're like, "Oh, what you doing?" Well.
Oh yeah, and they think he's on something else, and they're like,
Yeah.
"He's crazy. Let's leave him alone."
Because he's like, "Oh, you want drugs? You want to get high?" And he's like, "I'm on a supernatural high." That's what Bones says. One of my favorite lines. "I'm on a supernatural high."
Love it.
And they're like, "Dang, he on something else." And then he kills them both. And this one is very... They don't use physical effects for this, but he sort of kills them both very quickly and very hard.
Yeah.
So what they show is a shot off screen in which their blood splatters against the wall in the shape of a human body. So you know, like those very slapstick scenes where a cartoon character runs through a wall and it leaves behind a hole in the wall in the shape of their body.
This part of the
It's
movie,
like that, but it's made of blood.
when all of the, like, after the bodyguard's death, all of the deaths from this part on are very much more comedic than the rest of the film, I think. And that's where, like,
Yeah.
It really shines, I think, because they've added so much comedy into it.
Yeah. It's great. So then we cut to the drug dealer in his little drug lair, and he's with Snowflake.
Yeah.
And he's talking about tickling her little pink flower or whatever the hell.
It was such a creepy, like, did I write it down?
It was creepy, but it was good. I liked the weird racial language. I think it made sense for the character.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Definitely.
He was creepy and he was being very, like, racially fetishy.
Yeah. He calls her a Marilyn Monroe bitch at one point.
Yeah, he's like, I can't believe I bagged me a Marilyn Monroe bitch.
And she, like, runs off to freshen up. And he gets bored eventually and he goes after her. And he's like, I don't want to play these games anymore. Like, let's, like, hurry up. And he follows this blood trail and he just sees her legs sticking out of, like, is it a barrel or a bucket?
I couldn't tell.
I don't think we ever see her body. I think we just see her legs and we're like, just assume she's dead. And he tries to leave.
Yeah.
And then
we
Mr.
get
Bones is back.
one of my favorite shots where Bones is behind the drug dealer by the pool table. It's this baby bluish with a tinge of green in it pool table. And Bones sticks his switchblade into the fabric of the pool table and starts to
He walks along and the blade is
ripping through the fabric.
Yeah.
And as it does, that bright red blood is pouring out of the flesh/fabric of the pool table.
It's so cool.
It's such a good shot. It's very creepy. It's very almost Nightmare on Elm Street. It had that same sort of creepy vibe of, like, blades
you see the
to fabric.
influence in it, definitely.
It was great. And then, you know, the drug dealer turns around, sees it's Bones, and he pulls out his gun. And he's not afraid of Bones. He says, you know, we killed you. What you doing back here? I'm gonna kill you again. And he shoots him a few times. And obviously all the bullets just go straight through Bones because he's not necessarily real. He's more of a ghost.
Yeah.
And then Bones says something about your own reflection and holds up a mirror.
Mm.
And then the drug dealer shoots the mirror and it smashes in Bones' hand. And Bones drops the mirror frame. And then the shards of glass suddenly float up from the ground. And it's very clear that Bones is controlling them. And he shoots the shards of glass at the drug dealer. And they stab him in the back and pin him against the wall.
It was like an anime attack. No, because you ever watch, because it's shit, but if you ever watch Fairy Tale, there's this one attack this girl has and she's got, like, swords all around her and she just, like, throws her hand forward and the swords go forward. That was it. And I was like, okay.
It's very great. I loved it. Especially the way it pinned him against the wall.
Yeah.
I thought it was such a good visual. Then we cut to Bones again, strolling through the streets, going to his next victim. But we start to hear a familiar voice. The voice of...
The police officer?
No, the drug dealer.
Oh my god, yes!
Because Bones is carrying the drug dealer's decapitated head.
And he's still alive
It's
in the
still
head.
alive. It's very similar to... It reminded me of... I can't remember. I think it's Freddy versus Jason. Where at the end we see Jason walking out of the water and he's holding Freddy Krueger's head, and Freddy Krueger's head, like, the eyes open and, like, Freddy Krueger's head is alive. It just reminded me of that
I
scene.
still haven't seen that one. I need to watch that one.
Very cool.
Really funny.
Or was it the other way? It's Freddy carrying Jason. No, it's Jason carrying Freddy.
Well,
It reminded
Freddy,
me of that.
Jason doesn't talk. So it would be Freddy that would be talking.
That's true. Also, we find out that Bones can do impressions of other people's voices because he calls up the police officer impersonating the drug dealer.
Oh, I thought he used the drug dealer's head.
See, I thought so too, but then later on in the film, he does someone else's voice.
Oh, okay.
So I think he can impersonate the voice, but he says, like, oh, meet me right at this corner. So the police officer goes to meet the drug dealer.
And he walks in this building and then he closes the door and we find out that the police officer has just willingly walked into a door that says hell on it.
It has a glowing red light inside. And the police officer said, oh, okay, cool.
I said that would be a sick name for a club.
Hell.
Yeah.
Cute. I'd go. Someday.
It's hell because it plays, like, really bad music.
Also because it was like a gay club.
No. It's a straight club.
What a twist. That is terrifying.
It only plays, I don't know. What's a really bad music genre? Drum and bass?
No, I like drum and bass.
I don't like drum and bass.
Only plays like I can't think of it.
Taylor Swift.
Cut that out. Cut that
And it
out.
plays Taylor Swift on drum and bass.
I don't want to have a fight with nobody. Cut that out. Dea, cut that out.
We get 10 views, we'll be fine.
Cut it out.
We'll see. So he holds up the fat police officer. Damn, arm strength for ghosts. I should get on that exercise routine. Because, like...
You're going to die and come back just so you can be stronger?
Absolutely. I'll die and come back so that I can have knees that don't, like, dislocate.
I'll die and come back so I don't have a sensitive tummy.
There you go.
Yeah.
You can eat all the things you want.
I love that, actually.
And then he holds him up and he
hangs him on a meat hook.
Yeah, he does. He summons the meat hook as well. It's really cool. And he forces him to smoke crack.
The way that he made Bones smoke crack back in the day.
And he gets his switchblade and he cuts his stomach. And the crack smoke is coming out of the policeman's stomach.
Which it's not a highlighted detail. It's a small detail, which I loved so much. The fact that it wasn't highlighted, but they did it anyway, I thought was great. Because he makes him smoke the crack, but it's important to say he covers the police officer's mouth to stop him from being able to breathe the smoke out.
Yeah.
And when he removes his hand, the police officer no longer has a mouth.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And then he cuts open the stomach and that smoke comes out. And it's such a small detail. But it
Very
was so
subtle.
good.
Yeah.
So good. So funny if you pick up on it.
Really cool.
Yeah. And then he decapitates him.
Yeah. And there was 2 talking heads. And they're just like so annoyed of being decapitated. No, the police officer's like, oh my god, oh Jesus, this is this and this. And then the gang boss, he's just like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah, he's like, why are you doing this? Like, let me go. Like, gross.
You got the police officer now. What am I here for?
In fact, when he kills the police officer, he's left the drug dealer's decapitated head on the ground, and the blood pouring down from the police officer's body is dripping on the drug dealer's face. And he's
goes,
like,
was that necessary? He's what he says.
it's very
so
funny.
over it.
It's so lighthearted. It's great.
I love
But
it.
the visuals are still creepy, camp, fun, and uncomfortable. Then he goes after his third victim, which is
Pops,
the father.
he doesn't just kill him on
Carrying
the
these
spot, though.
2 decapitated heads, clinking against each other like beads. It's very good. It's very good.
He doesn't just kill Pops like the other 2. No, he kidnaps him and takes him to his little demon realm. And then he just throws the heads to the tar people in the corner.
Yeah.
And he's kind of torturing Pops a lot. Because I think it's because he was so close to him. Because he was like, since we were crickets or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Is what he says. So they've been friends for a long time. And so Pops' betrayal was like a big thing. And so he keeps dunking his head kind of into the tar people and letting him see visions of hell and the underworld and things like that.
Which was, again, practical effects. And it was so cool because as he shoves him into this like black gooey tar wall, we see the inside shot of the inside of this wall. And it's so suffocating because Pops is, you sort of from the shoulders up, he's stuck in this hole. Like it's hugging him tightly. And we can see how moist and sticky it is inside. And all the
Claustrophobic.
creepy actors covered in tar, black tar, is like clawing at him and reaching towards him. It felt enclosed. It didn't feel like if I turned the camera around that I'd see behind the scenes. It felt like I genuinely was in this big bowl of tar and the dead. And I loved that shot so much.
So good.
Again, so moist. I could feel the hot air, which was disgusting, but also so good.
I know. And the
So
colours
good.
they use in it, it's all purpley. And you don't really
Yeah.
get a lot of purple in this film. Because there's like green fog and there's red blood and there's, hell. But then they have this purple and it's so unique to like the underworld. And you're just like, whoa.
It's so different.
It gives the place a different feeling than the real world. And I think that really helps you kind of, not ground you, but it tells you where you are without you having to listen to exposition.
Yeah.
It's like it's very sophisticated like filmmaking in this film. Like we said it before with the crack smoke coming out the belly, and it doesn't get a lot of credit for that. I think.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think there's so much good about this film.
Really liked it.
So while Pops is getting tortured and pushed in and out of Hell's arsehole, we cut back to his sons and his daughter, his family at their house.
Hell's arsehole.
They realize that Bones is taking their dad, and so they need to go save him. So they go back to the mansion thinking that they're at the mansion.
Yeah.
They leave behind the little white sister and the mum
And
so
she's like, can I go too? For some reason, she's in a suit. Don't know if you remember that, but she's in a pink pantsuit.
are you sure it wasn't like pajamas?
It looked like a pantsuit to me.
Maybe it was. I don't remember. I wasn't paying attention to her. That's not the psychic.
No,
The sister.
the sister.
It probably was like pajamas. There was pajamas that look like suits. You know, like the little smart ones with the pocket
Yeah.
on the chest. Because this is even in the evening. Anyway, so the two brothers, Patrick and his brother, and baby psychic, head to the mansion to go resolve this whole thing.
Mama
in which, when does?
Oh yes. So they go to the house together. Yeah. Mama psychic and baby psychic are there.
Yeah.
And she's thinking, how the hell is Bones still alive? She knew he was dead. And then she remembers the fact that they buried him with her green dress because the green dress that she was wearing had loads of blood on it. Yeah. And she says that you have three selves. You have your soul, your spirit, and your something else. And the blood is the thing that binds you together.
Your body. I think it was the body.
The body, the soul, and then the blood is what binds them.
The blood is the spirit.
The blood is the spirit. Sorry.
Yes, and if his blood is still left behind, then that is what's binding him to this world.
So they need to burn this green dress. And the green dress is obviously in the basement.
Yeah.
And while they're in the basement, an elevator comes out. Because there is an old elevator in this house. But it's like...
But it's not been working.
No, it's not.
But all of a sudden it's working again. And there's this amazing shot where they're all in the basement.
Yeah.
And Mama Psychic is standing behind them. And out of the peripheral, sort of behind her, you see the elevator slowly come into shot.
It has this white light in it.
As it descends. Yeah.
And you're like, it doesn't look evil, if that makes sense.
No, it's almost warm. And it seems unnatural. Because the house, again, this entire time has been grey. It's been dusty and it's been not very well lit. But this elevator is warm. It's painted. There's colours inside. It's unusual. And
she gets in. She's quite calm about it. But all the kids are like, oh my God, no, come back.
Mom, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as she leaves, the kids are like, we have to go after her. Mind you, they couldn't find the green dress. It wasn't in the basement.
No.
So they start climbing the elevator shaft. There's a little ladder in there. And they get off at one of the floors. And as they get off that floor, sort of where the elevator door would be, there is this weird purple membrane.
Yeah.
And they have to rip through it like I don't know, what can we compare that to? Like a hymen?
Ew. Ew.
That's honestly what it was like.
Ew.
But it was gross. And again, it was physical effects again. This elastic purple fleshy fabric goo.
And you knew it was to the underworld because of the purple used in the other shot. Yeah. And you're like, this is the only other fucking purple thing in this film.
Exactly.
And it was brilliant.
And as they get out, you realize it's the lounge, but one of the walls of the lounge has essentially been ripped off and become a gateway into the underworld. And it almost seems
like tunnels.
Yeah, there's multiple tunnels. Now, this shot suffers a bit from its time. Its age shows here. Yeah. It's not the best effect.
I feel like there's a little CG in it.
Definitely. There's CG. It's a bit green screeny of all the multiple tunnels. But it felt like a necessary shot to show that they are now in the belly of the beast. But yeah, it does suffer from its age a little bit. But it's forgivable. It is definitely just a victim of its time. And the baby psychic basically explains that this isn't Bones doing it, but this is a part of sort of what he is.
What he's turned into.
Yeah. So it's not necessarily, his power isn't to summon this purple thing, but this is the underworld, and it's related to what's happening to him.
Yeah.
And so they run up the stairs, and she's like, as long as we stick together and
and as long as we know where we are.
Yeah.
He says, you have to remember what you've passed so that you can go back.
Exactly.
And isn't it the DJ brother? He sees a vision of Maurice, and he just fucking runs after him.
Oh, yes. So they're all trying to get out of this place, and they see Maurice post-racial, who we know is dead because Kujo Kuchi ate him up. But the brother decides to follow him. DJ brother decides to follow this ghost of him, and it's so creepy because post-racial's going into dark corners.
Oh yeah, he's not even talking. He's just wiggling his finger.
Yeah, he's beckoning him over with his finger, and the DJ is just oh, let me follow him into this dark corner like a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Mama Psychic gets to the top of the elevator, and it opens up to this room filled with hundreds of
candles,
red candles that are lit.
Yeah.
And in the center of them, in this warm, bright room, is her green dress on the floor. And she picks it up, and sort of a bit of magic happens, and all of a sudden she's wearing the dress.
And she's young, and she's got the afro
She's young
back,
again.
and she's no blood on her.
And Bones appears. and she's happy to see him. She's like, oh, she falls in love again.
Yeah.
And they sort of hug, and I think did they dance a little?
I think so. They like hold each other.
Yeah. And she says some things to him. I think she says, oh, you have a daughter, whatever.
Yeah.
Cut back to the stupid brother following
Maurice.
The ghost of post-racial.
Of post-racial.
And then what happens to come?
Baby Psychic and Patrick arrive as well. And
into the room with the mum.
Into the room with the mum.
Yeah.
And they have a little reunion, a family reunion. Like there's a ghost of Bones hugging the daughter, and they're all happy. And Patrick is also in the room with them.
Yeah, but Patrick's kind of freaked out.
Patrick's freaked out, and he turns away, and he sees this kind of, it looks like a framed painting of the tar people. Yeah, it's like a
picture frame. Yeah.
Yeah. And his father is in the painting, and he calls out to him, and he says, Jimmy Bones did this to me. Jimmy Bones did this to me. And he keeps saying it over and over and over again.
Again, this is done with practical effects.
Yeah.
So as he approaches the picture frame, his father is there covered in this sort of like purple paint and SFX, and there's all these creatures in it. It's
and he reaches out and he grabs Patrick and he holds on to him and he keeps saying, Jimmy Bones did this to me. He did this to me. And he has to kind of rip his dad's arm off of him.
Yeah, he cuts it off. So he's like slicing at his father's like weird mutated purple hand until it rips off. And it leaves behind this fleshy pink pocket. It was horrid. It was so uncomfortable.
Flesh pocket.
And again, physical effects. That's what happens,
Yeah.
It was great. And then he sort of like backs up away from the painting, back into where Jimmy Bones is. And he realizes that he needs to stop Jimmy Bones because Baby Psychic has fallen into his arms and is like, oh, daddy. And
she keeps saying, daddy, stop, daddy, stop. It's like, you've known this man for 2 minutes and you're calling him daddy already.
Genuinely. Mama Psychic is in love again. And so he pulls out the knife and gets ready to stab Snoop Dogg.
And Snoop Dogg picks him up.
Well, Snoop Dogg appears behind him and goes, surprise, brother. Well, he says the N-word, but you know.
And he picks him up and he just starts spinning him. Like, it's the most comedic part. No, it's not the
spinning
funniest
him
bit.
with magic spirit wind.
He's just being spun around.
Yeah. And then Baby Psych is like, stop, daddy, no, leave him alone.
Daddy, leave him alone. I love him.
And then Mama Psychic starts to sort of waken from the trance she's under.
Her
she
dress
looks
gets
into
blood
the mirror
on it again.
She looks into the mirror and she suddenly sees her old age again. And she sees the blood on the dress. And she realizes what she must do. So she picks up a candle and she lights the blood on fire on her dress.
And she says, I love you, Bones. And she like burns herself alive.
And she just immediately lights up like she was covered in vodka.
Yeah.
And Bones turns around and goes, no! And he like goes to, I guess, either try to stop the dress from burning or to rescue her. I think he was trying to rescue her.
I think a little both.
He hugs her and then he sets a light as well. And they both burn together.
Very romantic.
Yes. They burn to the ground.
Get you a guy who will burn for you.
Who will burn for you?
They escape from the underworld. And oh yes. And you think everything is safe. And they're like together. And it's Patrick and Baby Psychic because everyone else is fucking dead, I guess. Because I don't even know what happened to the DJ guy. Does he just get killed by Maurice in the tunnels?
I think he did.
Or does he just get left behind?
I think he's alive at the end, isn't he?
I don't remember him being alive.
You know what? Watch it for yourself if you want to find out.
Yeah, watch it for yourself because I can't remember. Maybe I'll watch. I'd love to watch the film again without taking notes, so I could actually absorb it properly.
Yeah.
But so you think everything's safe, and Patrick turns to Baby Psychic, and she just vomits maggots at him, and that's the end of the film.
Yeah. So you think it's all over because they leave the haunted mansion, which has like fallen down, but it turns back. But I will say, so Patrick thinks it's all over. Baby Psychic's behind him, and we see the shot of her where she does look really evil.
Oh.
And we seen that shot earlier when the mother was having visions during her seance. Oh. So we're like, oh wait, this is the vision from earlier. And then, as you said, maggots start to drop out of her mouth, and she vomits them, and that is the end of the film.
I don't think they drop; they shoot.
Well, they start to like kind of dribble from her, and then she like vomits, and they like spew out into the screen, and then it ends.
Disgusting.
Which was a bit of like a oh fuck you ending where you think it's over and for some reason she's evil out of nowhere.
Maybe she got possessed.
Yeah, but it was a bit of a fuck you ending. But it was campy and silly that I could enjoy. I was like, okay, cool. Yeah. Go on, M. Night Shyamalan me. Like, it was great.
Better than M. Night.
M. Night.
Better than M. Night.
It was a great film. It was really good.
So
I give it a 3.5 out of 5.
I gave it a 4 because I really liked it on Letterboxd.
I thought it was great. It was so visually pleasant. I enjoyed it so freaking much.
Should we do overall thoughts?
Yeah, so my own thoughts. So the visuals were playful, gothic. The use of practical and physical effects was visually exciting. It was satisfying. It was creepy. It was uncomfortable. I miss it. It was nostalgic almost. I mean, obviously because it's from 2 decades ago, but it was so good. I loved that they didn't just, because even now when we have practical effects, they're often laid over with sort of computer effects.
Yeah.
But they have to make it look convincing, which it never can because it is just physical effects and it has limits. But then it's become stylistic in that sense. And also the lighting was great. I loved the scene with the green fog outside of the castle.
So good.
It was I like to compare it to makeup. Right, I think modern like films in general, but horror films especially, I think that it's like makeup. Like I want 2016 makeup like lighting where it used to be colorful and like bold and out there, and it didn't matter if it looked super realistic. It was giving supernatural, like this
Now
green
horror
fog.
movies are all trying to be clean girls.
They're trying to be clean girls aesthetic, you know.
And that's not what you are, horror movies.
It's like grungy or it's like bright, but it's realistic. And I want campy. I want otherworldly. I want that uncomfiness. And we still get it sometimes, but it's much rarer now.
Yeah.
And I absolutely adored that about it. What was your overall thoughts?
My overall thoughts, loved it. I really enjoyed it. I feel it's the kind of movie I would love to watch again, but without taking notes, so I could just absorb it and just enjoy myself a lot more with it. Especially now that I know how it ends and everything that goes on, I can just kind of live with it. And the vibes were just brilliant. I love the production design and the art direction is amazing. I think they could have balanced the comedy a bit better, like because it's very serious towards the beginning and then more funny towards the end. I think that I would have, because I liked a lot of the humor in it already. I would have liked the humor more if I knew that the rest of the film was funny. And also the beginning, apart from like the guys getting murdered, with like Patrick and his dad and shit, that was just kind of boring.
Yeah, it's a bit slow.
Yeah.
Earlier on in the film. Yeah. Agreed. I have some questions for you.
I have one question for you.
So Snoop Dogg has two different looks in this film. How he used to look before he died, where he had the short bob. And then later on, when he resurrects, he's got like a 30-inch bust down. Which did you prefer?
I like the like devilish look. I think it's because it worked really well with how calm he was, because he has this very like gracious persona of this town. And the bob worked really well for that. But now that he's kind of been corrupted, I think that the long hair and the black suit just with the red tie worked so nicely.
I think it did give like,
and it was more chic, I think.
Creepy vampire vibes. It almost gave like Papa Legba vibes.
Yeah, kind of.
I really liked it. Yeah, I did like his death version. Yeah.
Not that his other suits was bad. He has a fabulous green suit at one point.
Yeah, I mean, he looked great both, was the point. What's your question?
Well, my question was more like serious. And it was, do you think that Bones could have protected the street if he hadn't been murdered at that one point? Or do you think he would have gotten murdered later on?
So you mean if they never killed him that night,
if they just left that night instead of making him smoke the crack?
Then would he have saved the neighborhood and the neighborhood would have never gone to shit?
Yeah.
I think so. Unless those same people just came back and murdered him again.
Yeah.
But I think he was a great guy. He was very powerful, very influential. And it's really sad that that once thriving black community just got destroyed by drugs.
Yeah.
I really wish that he would have saved it. I think he could have. He's a great guy. What a nice guy. I think that's too, because in the beginning we can't tell if he's a good person. But it's towards the middle when it's unveiled that like they murdered him. That's when we really find out, he was a good-hearted person. He was great. He wasn't just a legend because he was like scary. Like he was a great guy. Don't know. Well, my last question was just like, do you think it could, and more so, do you think you would enjoy it if this was like a horror series? If
it was a TV show?
No. Like Bones had multiple films.
I think we discussed this while we were watching the film as well, but you said that the vendetta was very personal, and I think that I think there is a possibility of expanding it, because then you could have him killing other gang bosses and other corrupt police officials.
Yeah.
But then, I guess, knowing what I know about America, you could just make it go on forever. Like, he just killed the president.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, when does it
I would
end?
love to see more of it.
Yeah.
I think what I would love is to see different films, but where Snoop Dogg is the bad guy
He's not in a lot of this film, but he does actually steal the show because I didn't expect him to be that good of an actor. Like, when celebrities do acting, I'm just like, okay.
I will say, his acting isn't incredible.
No.
They were very smart with what they did. They didn't give him much dialogue. They didn't give him much to do. But he's very good at playing himself.
Yeah.
And he is a very distinct character. He's very fun to watch. He's very fun to enjoy. He's smooth. And he's very confident. And has a lot of power as a person.
Yeah.
Just as a person. And so he brings that to the role. And I think as long as the role is minimal enough that he doesn't have to do any crazy acting, I think he's a very charming character to write into a script.
Yeah. I think they could put him in as other, like, supernatural creatures and things.
He can come back as a vampire.
A vampire.
A zombie. No, I wouldn't want
No,
him as
not
a zombie.
Zombie Snoop wouldn't work.
I'd like to see him as Death.
As Death?
Like, you know, like a Grim Reaper vibe.
Yeah.
But, like, instead of, like, the cloak and everything, she's just, like, pimped out. You know? Like he was in this film. I'd love that.
Yeah.
Oh, why haven't we had that? Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah.
That's who I want to see when I die.
That's who you want to see.
Snoop Dogg. You want to rank the villains? I love Snoop Dogg more than the Nazi zombies.
Yeah.
I liked him more than the Boogeyman.
Yeah.
I liked him more than...
Scrooge from Violet Night?
Yes.
And Marcella from Vampire Lovers?
I liked him more than Marcella.
And what about Kevin Bacon? Well, Kevin Bacon's at the bottom, isn't he? I can't remember where we put him.
I don't remember where we put him. But all I know is Snoop Dogg's going to the top.
I agree. He has the most personality of all of them.
Yeah.
My personal ranking is probably Mr. Bones,
Yes.
Marcella, Colonel Herzog. Actually, maybe I'd put Herzog above Marcella. They're, like, tied. And then Scrooge, because I think Scrooge is really fun. And then Kevin Bacon. And then Boogeyman.
My stomach just rumbled. I think it got picked up by the mic. I'm hungry. On that note, we should probably go eat.
Yeah.
So thank you for listening to this great episode.
Thank you very much for watching us. We're sorry for being so late, but we got shit to do.
Yeah, I'm sorry this episode's long. I don't know how long this one is.
No.
We'll find out if it's edited. But thank you for watching.
Yes. Please look into our description for the 3 links we mentioned at the beginning of the video on our YouTube. And in our link tree, you can find our social media. We have Instagram. We have TikTok. We have...
Twitter.
Do we have Twitter?
But we don't use it. But
Okay.
we have Twitter.
We have Twitter. We have our personal social media pages in the description as well. And now you can find all of the films we've watched on our little channel in the letterbox list so that you can remember which ones we've done.
Yeah.
And they have links to each episode in the description of them.
Isn't that great?
I thought it was so convenient. Because then you're like, oh, have I watched everything that Lit Dead's watched? You know?
And you can make sure, you know.
Comment how many you've seen. How many of our films have you seen?
And if you've ever seen any of the films we reviewed, drop your review in the comments.
Absolutely.
I would absolutely love to read.
Do you have any suggestions? What should we watch next?
What should we watch?
We're batch filming, but, you know, in a couple months.
Whatever
maybe,
you suggest will be like the 5th next video.
You never know. You might find it in 6 months. To a year.
To a year. If we ever film another episode. You know, we like to take our breaks.
Yeah.
All right.
Self-care.
Well, bye. Oh, we don't have a candle to blow out.
Bye.
We'll get a candle sometime.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.